It's been a while since I spoke about real estate in the York region. There are technically 9 communities in York, but there are 3 that have the most population: Markham, Richmond Hill, and Vaughan. I will make a deeper analysis of those 3 communities. If you are on the fence about either selling or buying in the York region, this could be a great resource video for you to better understand the current real estate market in the York region. Hey, welcome back to another video on the AV Team Real Estate channel. I'm Antonio and I am a local real estate agent in the GTA. If you have been enjoying the weekly video from this channel, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that it can be shared with more people who want to get updated on the real estate market in Toronto. Greatly appreciated. If you have any inquiries about the real estate, don't hesitate to contact me via the first link in the description down below. Before we get into the more detail on each of the asset classes in the York region, let's take a look at how the GTA is doing in terms of sales and month of inventory. For those that have been following me for a while, I tend to look at the month of inventory more often to determine the current momentum of the real estate market. So here we have all the sold transactions or sales in 2024 for the region of Toronto, York, Peel, Durham, and Houghton, and we have the official Toronto Real Estate Board number from May and June. For the mid-July, I extracted manually from the system since we don't have the official number from Toronto Real Estate Board. And the most sales, of course, we have Toronto with 2,701 in May and dropped to 2,236 in June, which is 400 plus transactions, which is the most. And then we have York at 1,198 sales and dropped to 1,082 in June, which is over 100 transactions. And then we have Peel at 1,197 in May and then dropped to 1,120 in June. And then we have Durham from 907 to 877 in June. And then finally in Houghton, we have 765 transactions and dropped to 650 in June. In summary, we have the most drop in Toronto, which is over 400 plus transactions, and then the rest is more or less about 100 transactions. And don't get me wrong, 100 transactions is quite a lot for real estate. And then we are compared to mid-July as a recording of this video in July 17. And even if we multiply this transaction by 2, which has 2 remaining in the month, we are only catching up to probably June data, and June is already a bad month. However, I think it is quite normal because of the summer season, which is usually slow, and people are just simply going away and for vacation and family activity and so on. They pay less attention to real estate. So it's very normal to have slower sales activities, but it is indeed not looking great. So now let's move on to month of inventory in 2024 for the whole GTA. And we have the official number from the Toronto Real Estate Board for May and June. Again, mid-July, I was extracted from the system on my own manually. In general, anything less than 4 would be considered a buyer's market, and anything between 4 to 6 would be a balanced market, and everything over 6 would be considered as a seller's market. And the month of inventory simply means the number of months that will be taken to sell off all the inventory, assuming that there's no other new listing enters the market. The higher the number, the more favorable to the buyers. So for the month of May, we started off like Toronto, the most 3.2 month of inventory, and then York at 2.8, Peel at 2.9, and Durham 1.8, which is the least amount of inventory, and Houghton at 2.5. And practically in June has gone up for every region quite a bit, from 3.2 to 3.4, and mainly in the 3 month of inventory. And again, the least is Durham and Houghton, but still they have an uptick. In mid-July, which I extracted manually, almost closer to 4 months of inventory, which is closer to balanced market. However, these are all home types all combined together, including the freehold properties and also all the condo apartments. As I mentioned earlier in the past, the freehold market is actually very competitive and have a very low inventory compared to condo apartments. In fact, Toronto condos apartment inventory, it has been more than 6 months of inventory at the moment, which is way high up, but because of combination with the freehold market, now we are sitting closer to 3.85. So as you can see right now, the market is really shifting towards the buyer's market at the moment. So now let's deep dive to the York region, including the all 9 areas, including Markham, Richmond, Vaughan, Aurora, Newmarket, Stouffville, King, and Georgina. So these are all home types, meaning including all the freehold properties and the condos, apartments. And I included the current Toronto Real Estate Board number in June and also June of last year in 2023 as a comparison. And there are no surprise that most transactions are actually in the 3 main areas in York, which is Markham, Richmond Hill, and Vaughan. So in June, we have reported 260 sales in Markham, which is supposedly one of the most transacted area. The same month last year in 2023, which was 349, and we have a drop off of negative 34%, which is one of the largest decline. And next we have Richmond Hill, which we only have 161 transactions this June, and compare that same month last year was 197, and we have another drop of minus 22%. And Vaughan was the least drop from 310 of this June 2024, and last year in 2023 same month was 350, so it was only negative 13%. The next most transaction was probably in Aurora or Newmarket, which is Aurora didn't have much of an effect, only negative 2% compared to last year same month. Newmarket from 80 in June to 97 in same month last year was negative 21%. As you can see, most of the communities are into double digits decline, and the most is in Markham, and then we have Richmond Hill, the second highest. So one thing to take note is that Aurora might have just 2% down, but also has the least transaction or not as dense population as the 3 main communities in York, just to take that into consideration. But for the most part, it is declining, and I can see June could be much worse. Here are the important stats that I would like to share with you on the York region. The first one we have is the sales to new listing ratio, which generally, if anything between 40 to 60%, I will consider that as a balanced market. And if anything less than 40%, it will be considered as a buyer's market. Anything over 60%, it will be basically a seller's market. For the most part, before 2020, the market was so hot that in many regions, they were over 80% most of the time. And look at the number right now. We are sitting mostly into 40s, or some are already under 40. So we are technically on the buyer's market. And now we can see that for the most part in Richmond Hill, Vaughan, and King, and also East Willimbury and Georgina already under 40%. And this stat is only in June. I can believe the July data could be much worse. Now on to the months of inventory is the stat that I also have mentioned before. It simply means the number of months that we would take to sell everything, assuming that there's no new listing entering the market. Basically for Markham, it would take 2.4 months to deplete all the inventory in Markham if there's no new units in. So the more month of inventory would be favoring the buyers. And here we can see King City has the most at 6.3. However, but King City doesn't really have much population, so they are mainly into huge houses and luxurious homes. So you can expect the market is much lower with the high interest environment. And we have Georgina, the second highest, and we are approaching above 3 in month of inventory, which is quite unusual when we compare that to the BC market that we had in the past. And don't forget that these numbers are combined with the condo units and the freehold properties. If we just comparing the condo market, we could expect much more higher month of inventory. Now on to the days on the market, DOM. Basically, it requires 30 days or more to sell the property at the moment. And the good days, we can see less than a week. But now we are talking about at least over 30 days for most part in your region. And lastly, we have the terminated transaction in the last column. The reason why I want to share this information is that when there is a good real estate market, these numbers are basically next to zero because everything is selling just within a week. But in this market, we see much more terminations, as you can see, mostly in the 3 main areas of Markham, Richmond Hill, and Vaughan, which also have the highest housing density. When listings are not selling as frequently, terminations are piling up as much as as 3 digits in the main area, and this is something that we haven't seen for a long while. Now to the more interesting statistic that you might want to see, which is the average price. We have the June average prices for this year in 2024 and also last year's same month prices for comparison. And the most right, we have the current July number up to the 17th as of recording of this video for a quick glance at what is happening now. Keep in mind that this number in July could change since we still have 2 more weeks remaining, but nevertheless, this could give you an idea. The good news is that the prices didn't fall as much. Basically, we'll have only 4 areas that has been declining if we compare that for last year same month in June. One is the Markham, then we have Richmond Hill, and then one in East Gwillimbury and Georgina. Surprisingly, we have some uptick in pricing in Vaughan, Aurora, Newmarket, Stouffville, and King City. The most decline we have the East Gwillimbury, and then the second most is in Markham at -7%. And then Georgina and Richmond Hill practically down 5%. And we have as much as an increase in King City for 7.3%, which is quite surprising. Most of the pricing in most of the region are pretty resilient. However, if you look at the data in July so far, we still have some declinings based on this number here, but take note that it is not official. So we have to wait until the official Toronto Real Estate Board give us the data for July. However, I can see that the pricing is still very resilient. Now on, I'm going to share average prices for the most popular asset classes in detached, semi-detached, townhouses, and condo for the 3 main areas in Markham, Richmond Hill, and Vaughan. Let's start with detached home in this chart here. In Markham, June of last year 2023, we started off with 1.82 million, and in June of 2024, we are down to 1.793, which is only a negative 1.5% difference. This is really not a big change, and as of mid-July in 2024, we are only down to 1.73 million. However, we are still down from last year in June compared to 1.8 million. And now Richmond Hill, we started off last year in June 2023 at 2.165 million, and now June 2024 at 2.017, which is the most decline at negative 7.3% at the moment. We have a slight uptick right now in mid-July to 2.045, which is just not so much compared to last year in 2023. And Vaughan was the most surprising. We have 1.819 million in June of 2023, and it has gone up 5% to 1.914 million in June of 2024. But now we're looking at mid-July, we are down to 1.73 million. So it might have gone down for now. But again, this is only mid-July. It can change in 2 weeks, but it remains to be seen. Now let's look at the semi-detached home average prices. In Markham, we have the most decline. Last year, June in 2023, we started off at 1.378 million. This year in June 2024, we down to 1.262 million, which is a negative 9.2% difference. However, as of recording of this video in mid-July, we are up again to 1.361 million, which is closer to almost a year ago. In Richmond Hill, we started off at 1.384 million in June of last year in 2023, and this year we are down to 1.304 million and only down for negative 6.1%. However, in the mid-July number, we are looking at a downward trend, so we have to see the remaining 2 weeks. And then Vaughan, we started off at 1.253 million and down to 1.215 million, which is only a negative 3.1% difference. However, the mid-July number is also in a downward trend. We'll have to take a closer look if we are down from last year pricing. Now let's look at the freehold townhouse average prices. Starting off with Markham, in June last year in 2023, we started off at 1.370 million. We are down to 1.227 in June of 2024, and this is a significant double-digit negative 11.6% down. And as of mid-July, we are still looking a little bit more downward trend. Like I said, we still have 2 weeks remaining to see how this goes. And now Richmond Hill, we started off at 1.296 million in June of 2023, and we actually have a slight up in June of 2024 at 1.316 million, slight 1.52% up. However, in mid-July it's showing the number is going downward again to 1.238 million, which is not too far away from last year's pricing. And now Vaughan started off at 1.27 million, down to 1.198 million in June of 2024, down -6%. In the mid-July, we're also still showing a little bit down to 1.148 million. From what I see here, we're still down from the pricing of June of 2023, but we still have 2 weeks remaining. Now, finally, we're looking at the condos average prices. As you may know, the condo market are struggling in terms of sales, but the pricing is still very resilient. In Markham, we started off at 745,000 in June of 2023, and this year in June 2024, we are actually up 4.6% to 781,000. As of mid-July right now, they are still up a tad bit to 820,000 at the moment. There's still 2 weeks remaining in July. Now, Richmond Hill started off at 710 in June of 2023, and we are down -5.89% to 670,000. Again, in mid-July, it's showing a little bit up, increasing right now to 757,000. There are still 2 more weeks remain to be seen. And now, Vaughan, we started off in June of 2023 at 707,000 and down to 677,000, a -4.36%. In mid-July, again, is showing a little bit increasing. It still remains to be seen the final 2 weeks, how this number ends up. Overall, we're still looking at the condo market remains resilient at the moment with these prices in York. Let me know if you like this kind of market update or if you find it a bit too detailed and long. Please comment down below and let me know so that maybe I could change it up a bit for next time I do a market update. Anyway, I hope you have a nice one, which I'll see you in the next video.